This is the iPhone 14 Plus, and it's the newest addition to the iPhone lineup from Apple. And this right here is the iPhone 13 Pro Max, which was, the highest tier from last year until they released the 14s this year. So what you're gonna notice is they're pretty similar looking. They have very similar traits, and some of you might be considering which one to go for, right about now, because they're, right around the same budget range, I would say. But in today's video, we're going to be checking out the differences between the both of them and seeing, which one is a better value, for anyone out there in general. Because I've used the iPhone 13 Pro Max for a year now, and I've had this for about maybe a week to 2 weeks now, so I've been checking it out to see the differences between the both of them. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. So first off, we'll talk about the color options that you can get for either phone. So for the iPhone 14 Plus, you can get it in blue, in purple, in midnight, starlight, or this red right here. And for the 13 Pro Max, you can get it in alpine green, silver, gold, this graphite, and Sierra blue. So you've got options, for both ones, but I don't think there should be, a reason to consider one or the other one. All right, next up, the weight. So this feels lighter, and I'm pretty sure it's because of the material that it's made with and the fact that it has less components than the 13 Pro Max. The 13 Pro Max weighs 238 grams, and the 14 Plus weighs 203 grams. Next up, storage capacity. So you can get the 14 Plus in only 3 storage iterations because it is not a Pro phone. So they've held back on the 1 terabyte iteration for the 14 Plus, but you can still get the 13 Pro Max in up to 1 terabyte. As for what these are made from, we've got ceramic shield fronts on both of them, and on the back sides, it differs. So on the left one here, 13 Pro Max, we have aerospace grade aluminum, so it's more durable, while on the right side here, we have surgical grade stainless steel. Along the sides of both phones, the buttons are all the same. We've got a SIM card tray on the left side, as well as a volume up and down button, and kind of a notification or a mute notification button there. The top side looks exactly the same, and on the right side we've got our single power button, the one button there, and under there we've got the same lightning ports as well as some speakers. As for the screen, we've got the same notch on both of them. Everyone's saying it, but it's pretty obvious that Apple has decided, to transfer the 13 Pro Max's design to the 14 Plus. We've also got 6.7-inch Super Retina XDR displays on both of them as well. So we've got ProMotion on the 13 Pro Max, but we don't have ProMotion on this one. So you can get refresh rates up to 120 hertz, when using this. Adaptive refresh rate. Some of you guys out there might not care about ProMotion display or 120 hertz or none of that, but me personally, I've been using this for over a year now, so I can notice it. So I see it, and this feels a lot more sluggish to me than, this display. This just feels buttery. The bezels around the corners are also the same, a speaker location, and the camera on the front there. They're pretty much the same when, looked at from outside. Both can also play HDR content, so that's great right there. We've got 1000 nits of maximum brightness for the Pro phone, so the Pro Max, but we only have 800 nits of max brightness for the 14 Plus. So you might not notice that difference. As for safety features, we've got emergency SOS, which is just a regular one with the 13 Pro Max, but they've taken that up a notch this year and added crash detection as well as emergency SOS via satellite, and that's only going to be available in the 14 Plus. Personally, I wouldn't really care about that part right there, and that would make no difference when I'm trying to decide which one to get. When it comes to the camera system between both phones, you want to pay a lot of attention because there's some key differences to, note before buying either of them. So the 13 Pro Max has 3 cameras, obviously, as you can see. So it's got a 12 megapixel main, ultra wide, and telephoto lens, while the 14 Plus only has 2 camera systems. So it's got a main and an ultra wide, but they're both 12 megapixels as well. So we're only missing the 12 megapixel telephoto from the 13 Pro Max on the 14 Plus. So if that matters to you, having the telephoto lens for macro photography, then you definitely want to, grab the 13 Pro Max. But if that doesn't matter to you, then, the 14 Plus is an option, worth considering. But personally, I prefer having, that third camera. I love having that flexibility. But, I also use the iPhone 13 Pro Max or just my iPhone for, a lot of filming as well. On the front side, we've got the same camera for both phones. So a 12 megapixel front camera for all of your selfies. So no differences there. Both of them also use the same kind of image stabilization system. So the first generation sensor shift So no differences there. When it comes to, what you can do with the camera, I'm talking video and photo modes. We've got cinematic mode, which I'll start with first. So cinematic mode is a mode that was introduced last year, to the iPhone models, but the 13 Pro Max only has it at, up to HD, which is 1080p at 30 frames per second. But on this non-Pro phone, you can get up to 4K at 30 frames per second. So higher frame rates for more professional video stitching. You want to mix your 4K content from something else with 4K from here, then you can do that with the 14 Plus, using cinematic mode, which, by the way, gives you a blurry background, which you would usually get with, a professional DSLR camera or something like that. As you can see right there, cinematic mode on the 13 Pro Max does not have options for, selecting between HD or 4K, but we've got, those options on the 14 Plus at the top right there. So we've got HD, and then you can switch to 4K. I like shooting in cinematic mode, but I never really used it much last year because, the 13 Pro Max was only in 1080p, but having it in 4K gives, more freedom and gives you more opportunities to use it and get, really good image quality out of it. Next, we have ProRes video, which, doesn't come on the 14 Plus, but you get at up to 4K at 30 frames per second on the 13 Pro Max. But it's not very useful because you need to have, a lot of storage to use that feature. And transferring, ProRes files from, your phone directly into your laptop takes a little while because those files are large, they're huge. So if you plan on shooting a lot in cinematic mode, or if it matters to you a lot, then you might want to consider the 14 Plus in this case. So the regular 4K video recording, you can get with all of them at up to 60 frames per second. You can also get, regular HDR recording with Dolby Vision at up to 4K and 60 frames per second on both cameras as well. So as you can see on the top there, we've got action mode, on the 14 Plus, but we do not have it as an option in the 13 Pro Max. So it's a new feature that will, help further stabilize footage. Let's say you're shooting sports and a lot of movement, people running all over the place, then you'd want to, activate action mode right there. But, it's not a deal breaker for me because you also have to lose, quality when using action mode. Like you can't use, 4K or whatever. You can only use it at maximum of 2.8K, which to me is not it. I want to shoot at 4K or nothing less than that. So it's a sacrifice that you'll have to, give up to use that mode. So most of the other modes are pretty much the same. We've got portrait mode on both phones, which is pretty much cinematic mode, but for photos. Think about it like that, where you can blur out, the background and have like a subject in focus. We've also got, all our different other modes like slow motion, time lapse, and all of those. There's just less cameras, on the iPhone 14 Plus as opposed to the 13 Pro Max. If you plan on doing any macro photography, which pretty much just means close up, photography, so you plan on taking photos of plants, photos of even small bugs and stuff like that, then you might want to look at the 13 Pro Max just because of that, extra telephoto camera, because it'll give you really good quality and you can, as opposed to using the 14 Plus, which will not give you anything good for macro photography. So we've also got Apple ProRAW, which gives you a lot of, options, a lot of details to work with when taking photos, in that mode. But we've only got that on the 13 Pro Max. We do not have ProRAW on the 14 Plus. Then we've got night mode. They've all got night mode, so no issues there, and they'll do great, at night. As for the battery life on both of these, the 13 Pro Max is promising up to 28 hours of video playback, but the 14 Plus is promising up to 26 hours of video playback. So only 2 hours there, so I wouldn't say, you would notice much of a difference. So yeah, we've got a lot of similarities when it comes to the body of, both phones. Like the only way someone is gonna be able to tell the difference between both phones just by looking at them is by looking at the cameras on the backside. Like without that, they are, looking like the same exact phone. So something else that you should note is that both phones use the same chip. So the 13 Pro Max uses Apple's A15 Bionic from last year, and the 14 Plus just borrows the same chip and uses it. So this is a 13 Pro Max case that I had and used with my 13 Pro Max over the year, and it fits well on the 14 Plus as well. But the problem with that is the camera looks weird. It doesn't fit properly because there's less cameras on the 14 Plus than there is on, the 13 Pro Max. So you definitely don't want to use a 13 Pro Max case with, your 14 Plus. Now let's talk about pricing. So I'm sure that you can get the 13 Pro Max for a lot less than you can get the 14 Plus. I would definitely suggest going for the 13 Pro Max over the 14 Plus if budget is, something that's important to you. If you know how much you spend is important to you. But if not, you want to look at both phones and their features and determine what you're looking for in a phone and, go for one of them. This is retailing for $13.99 Canadian dollars, on the Apple Store. And like I said, on Amazon, this is retailing for between $1,000 to $1,500. So it depends on, what you get or where you are, the kind of deals you can find. There's so many places you can buy, used phones or refurbished phones. Do you like having, as much bang for your buck as you can get, then you'd want to go for the 13 Pro Max. But if you want, some of the newer features, you should definitely go for the 14 Plus. Overall, I think they're both really, really good phones, but go ahead and let me know down in the comment section which one you guys think, you'd go for if you had the option of picking only one. And also let me know why, you would go for the one you chose. But that's pretty much all I've got for you guys in today's video right here. If you have any questions, let me know down in the comment section. If you enjoyed the video, go ahead and leave a like down below. I will catch you guys in my next video. It's Tommy with Midas Tech, and I'm out, y'all.